Mum, did your mother pray?
She prayed constantly. She prayed to a good God who had brought her into the world and who had looked after her, and she felt he would continue to do that. Hence her constant praying.
Do you think she thought that God listened to her prayers?
Oh yes, indeed she did. It made life tolerable because life was very hard. Death was always knocking at the door and it had to be explained. And death had to be explained away. And this necessitated the existence of a God.
A good God?
A God who ultimately was good, but whose purpose was difficult to manifest itself.
But all the same, listened to her prayers.
That he listened to her prayer, that he guided her, that he knew all her deepest secrets, that he was the most formative influence in her makeup.
Okay, let's change the question now to your experience in the 20th century. Can you start off talking about the First World War and what happened to your family in the First World War?
1914 to 18 was a terrible time. And although we lived on a remote hill sheep farm, death became very near. Some of my best friends at school were in boats that were sunk in the First World War. My mother's older brother was shot in the knee and could never walk again. His middle-sized brother was gassed at Ypres, and the youngest one, Gwen, saw the poison gas mustard gas come in waves towards him. He breathed it in and he suffered from his chest.
How did your mother find out about the deaths of her family?
Well, the one I remember vividly is a Sunday morning. I'd been to chapel with my mother, and my mother's birthplace was a hill sheep farm, and the farm sloped down the hill. And as we watched, my mother said, "Oh, it's the red bike coming." I said, "What about the red bike?" And she says, "Well, somebody's died, somebody's been killed in the war." And this is how it was the harbinger of death, really.
Okay, if we move from the First World War to the Second World War, what was your experience of what happened to Swansea?
Swansea, the Blitz in Swansea, we saw in the sky, because they hit the oil field, the oil well, first of all, and there was snow on the ground, so everything was highlighted for the Germans after the first bombing raid. They hit the oil storage things.
And how did you know they were coming?
Haw-Haw had said, Lord Haw-Haw put the fear of God. Everybody listened to him on the 6 o'clock news. And he said on the Friday night, "We're going to visit you in Swansea, you know, this tonight," when it was too late to have done anything about it anyway. And they came. And then they came the second night when everything was ablaze. And then on the third night, most of Swansea had evacuated to the Gower.
Okay, then after the war, when you were at Manchester University, you had a lot of Jewish friends and colleagues. And what did you think of their experience? People like Guy Eisner.
The professor there was Jewish. Guy Eisen, who was my best friend, but Manchester University had a policy of welcoming these Jewish emigres. And they contributed enormously to the ability and the wealth of the community.
Did they talk much about the experience they'd been through?
Oh, no. It was too deep. It was too painful to chatter about.
Okay. But by then, had you got a view that Hitler, for example, was evil?
I had a feeling that the war was evil.
Things were evil.
That really the outcome of wars was always on the side of the strong, and the weak didn't matter, didn't count. They were just fodder.
Did that count in things like Biafra as well, where you watched little kids starving on your television?
Yes, the world belongs to the strong, let's face it. The weak have always been trampled or dismissed.
So given all the terrible things that you've witnessed in the 20th century, how do you think that matches up with your mother's idea of a good God who listens to her prayers?
Oh, it needs a radical rethink. For myself, I've had to do this rethink, and to believe that the evil that we've witnessed in this century has been man-made, but God has allowed it to happen. This was the old belief. Nowadays, we hope that mankind is learning to solve the terrible problems that confronts us.
So do you pray?
I don't pray consciously, no.
Because?
I don't think it works.
And do you think that view is common to people across South Wales, part of the reason why the churches are now empty?
Oh, no. I think the act of prayer was a very sophisticated one, and that people have been disillusioned because their prayers have not been answered. The 20th century knew terrible unemployment, poverty, the dictators. Where was God in all this?